This is a presentation about foundational statistical analysis brought to you by TLT Tomorrow's Leaders Today's Data Research Interns, Zachary, Vinay, and Anthony. We'll be covering the following topics. What is statistical analysis? What is the purpose of it? What are some of the concepts you need to know? And what are some of the methods that you can take? And a comparison and contrast between data and statistical analysis and some of the applications of it. We'll be diving into the quick intro and statistical analysis. So what is it exactly? Statistical analysis is a discipline intersecting collection, organization, analysis, interpretation, and presentation of data using statistics. The purpose of it is to provide objective insights and uncover hidden trends from data to draw meaningful conclusions in context.
Next, we'll be talking about the statistical analysis key concepts. First, we have data types. We dive into data into two categories, quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative data is numeric and can either be discrete, like whole numbers, or continuous, like measurements that fall on a scale. Qualitative data, or categorical data, can be nominal, such as labels with no order like male or female, or ordinal, which have a clear order like bronze, silver, and gold. Next, we have population versus sample. A population includes the entire group you want to study, like all dogs in the US. A sample is a smaller group drawn from that population, like dogs in Texas. Since it's usually impossible to gather data from an entire population, we work with samples to make inferences. Standard error versus standard deviation. Standard deviation tells us how spread out the values are within a sample. Standard error, on the other hand, tells us how much those samples means vary if we took from multiple samples of the same population. Lastly, the types of variables. In a study, the dependent variable is the outcome we measure, like test scores. The independent variable is what we change, like the number of studying hours, and the control variables are everything else that we hold contests to keep the test fair and unbiased.
Talking about some of the methods that you can do or use for statistical analysis. So first, you can use descriptive statistics. So what descriptive statistics are is that they summarize and describe data sets. So some of the descriptive statistics that are commonly used is the mean, which is the average value of a data set. How you calculate that is you take the sum of all values and you divide by the total number of values you have. Another statistics that you use is the median, which is the middle value in data set. You can also use the mode, which is the most common value in the data set that occurs. The another one that you can use is standard deviation. This measures variability and spread of data. You can also use variance, which measures the same thing as standard deviation, just in a different unit, and you calculate that by squaring the standard deviation. And lastly, you can use range, which you can calculate by taking the largest value in the data set and subtracting it by the smallest value in the data set. You can also use inferential statistics. So what these are you draw conclusions and predictions from data. So one method is hypothesis testing. So this is a statistical inference method of determining whether certain data results support a particular theory or hypothesis. Some hypothesis test examples are the z-test, the t-test, chi-square test. There are several of them. There's independence test, goodness of fit, homogeneity, and lastly, there's an ANOVA test. You can also use confidence intervals. These estimate a certain parameter, such as the mean. And lastly, you can use regression analysis. These identify relationships among variables through either linear or multiple regression. Statistical experiments. So there's three different types of experiments. The first one is called experiments, which is manipulating variables that involve dependent, independent, and control variables. The second method is observational studies. This is where the researcher observes and records data with no manipulation of variables. And lastly, there's surveys, which are questionnaires sent out to groups of people who want to answer. Another method that people commonly use are basic data visual techniques. So some of the data visual options that you can use are box plots, scatter plots, histograms, pie charts, and bar plots. So on the right, there are individual examples of what each of these look like. A box plot essentially looks like a box in the middle, and then a scalar plot measures the relationship between two numeric variables and has multiple points. A histogram just measures the distribution of numeric variables. A bar graph measures and showcases the distribution of categorical variables. And a pie chart also shows the distribution of categorical variables in percentages or proportions. That people use for statistical analysis are software tools. So some of these include R and Python, which are coding languages. Some other software tools include SPSS, which is a statistical package for the social sciences, Stata, and SAS, which is statistical analysis software. And SPSS, Stata, and SAS are similar to like Excel, and R and Python are actual coding languages where you would write out code to do actual analysis methods.
Now we're going to look at the difference between data analysis and statistical analysis. When looking at data analysis and statistical analysis, a common misconception people hold is that the two represent the same idea. However, this is untrue. Data analysis is defined as a broader concept that encompasses several processes and/or techniques that are meant to extract useful insights from data. In this sense, it is an umbrella term upon which concepts such as statistical analysis are included within. Knowing this, let's discuss the components of data analysis. The first of these is data organization. When we say data organization, what we're really referring to is the process of structuring raw, unfiltered data into usable formats, the creation of databases, and establishing data hierarchies. This is a critical step as it ensures data consistency and quality for all subsequent processes. Next is data cleansing. During this process, our focus shifts towards identifying and correcting errors. These errors are various in nature. For example, missing values, duplicates, and outliers are mistakes in our data that would need to be handled during the data cleansing stage. In essence, this stage is meant to trim down our data and ensure consistency to create quality data sets. Another component of data analysis is data preprocessing, which is defined as the act of transforming data into the usable format for analysis. This term is a bit more expandable than the others we've covered, as it encompasses several different actions that can be taken in preparing data. Examples of this include normalization, standardization, and variable encoding. While the steps taken often depend on how an individual plans to use their data down the line, the overarching goal is to improve data quality to allow for more in-depth analysis. Finally, data analysis involves advanced data visualization. When thinking of data visualization, most people probably think of simple formats such as charts and graphs representing relationships between two or three variables. However, in data analysis, visualization goes much further as we make use of constructs such as dashboards, multi-dimensional plots, network graphs, and geospatial mapping. Visualizations such as these not only show relationships, but also patterns and trends that provide valuable insights for decision making. Now let's focus on platforms used. In data analysis, various software tools are used to extract valuable information and perform tasks. Examples of this include SQL, Python, R, and Julia. The purposes of each individual platform can vary from data retrieval to aggregation to statistical and numerical computing, but all of them serve to view our data in meaningful ways. Now that we've covered data analysis, we can narrow our focus to statistical analysis. As mentioned earlier, statistical analysis is a specialized subset of data analysis. When speaking about statistical analysis, we are referring specifically to the application of mathematical models on data to test hypotheses and draw conclusions. The methods for statistical analysis vary in nature, as we have seen so far. Methods used for statistical analysis can range greatly in complexity. Examples such as mean, standard deviation, and variance fall under the umbrella of descriptive statistics, which summarizes and describes data. However, statistical analysis also includes methods of deeper complexity, such as hypothesis testing, confidence intervals, and regression analysis. These kinds of methods fall under the term of inferential statistics, which are defined by their ability to draw conclusions and predictions from data. As with most disciplines under data analysis, statistical analysis makes use of software tools to complete specialized tasks. Platforms such as SPSS, Stata, Python, R, and SAS are used across various fields such as social science, economics, and finance. When thinking of statistical analysis, the key takeaway is that it provides methods to find conclusions and make predictions with mathematical certainty in our data. Now we're going to take a look at some of the different applications of statistical analysis. Due to the rising importance of data and the insights it holds, almost all organizations across the world have incorporated data analysis in some capacity. As the field of statistical analysis and its capabilities have developed, so has its use across various fields. For example, the foundation of modern healthcare research is statistical analysis. Fundamentally, statistics are used by healthcare researchers to distinguish between actual treatment effects and chance. They can determine whether new treatments are safe and effective for patients by performing meticulously planned trials and using analytical techniques. Despite biological variation, researchers can make accurate conclusions by using techniques such as survival analysis, regression modeling, and hypothesis testing. Statistical methods assist in controlling for confounding variables that could distort results while also taking patient differences into consideration. To guarantee that medical treatments are founded on reliable evidence rather than anecdotal experience, the field makes use of everything from meta-analysis techniques to randomized controlled trials. Another one of the most significant applications of statistical analysis has been in business, as statistical methods have become critical for predicting market trends and quantifying consumer behavior. Examples of this include regression analysis, which is used to identify the factors that influence sales, and time series forecasts, which greatly assist in forecasting demands for the future. In addition, methods such as cluster analysis can be used to segment customers so that companies can understand their various demographics and how they engage with their products and/or services. Each of these methods forms a clear picture of the company's performance and customer engagement, and using them drives decision-making across various facets such as inventory management, pricing strategy, and market positioning. The sports industry, on the other hand, is an example of a non-science related field that has been revolutionized by statistical analysis, moving beyond basic performance metrics to sophisticated analytical frameworks. Teams can now use statistics to evaluate true player value, optimize strategies, and gain competitive advantages that might be invisible to the naked eye. Through regression modeling, spatial analysis, and predictive algorithms, sports analysts can separate signals from anomalies in performance data. Statistical methods help quantify player contributions, identify winning strategies, and predict outcomes based on historical patterns. Social sciences use statistical analysis to help understand human behavior and evaluate policy effectiveness. In these fields, statistics helps researchers measure intangible concepts, identify behavioral patterns, and determine if interventions actually produce intended results. Through experimental design, survey methodology, and multivariate analysis, social scientists can draw reliable conclusions from complex human data. Statistical techniques help control for confounding variables when studying behavior and enable researchers to generalize findings from samples to larger populations. From evaluating psychological treatments to measuring public opinion, statistics provides the tools to transform observations into meaningful insights. Digital platforms operate on a foundation of statistical analysis as well, continuously optimizing user experiences through data. These companies collect vast amounts of behavioral data and employ statistical methods to personalize content, improve interfaces, and predict user actions. Recommendation algorithms, A/B testing frameworks, and predictive modeling enable platforms to make data-driven decisions about everything from feature development to content curation. Statistical techniques help identify patterns in user behavior, detect anomalies that might indicate problems, and measure the impact of platform changes. Finally, statistical analysis is essential in engineering and manufacturing processes to ensure quality, enhance designs, and boost efficiencies. These disciplines apply statistics for improvement across materials, processes, and results as a way of enhancing dependability of products. The design of experiments, statistical process monitoring, and reliability evaluation enable engineers to make knowledgeable choices with minimal testing information. Statistical techniques assist in recognizing key elements influencing product performance, forecasting failure frequencies, and verifying that components function together correctly despite typical manufacturing discrepancies. From testing materials to ensuring high quality, statistics offers a structure for reliable, high-quality manufacturing.
Lastly, we'll talk about how to get started with statistical analysis. The first step is to understand your data. Ask, is it qualitative or quantitative? For qualitative data, use tools like the mode, bar plots, or pie charts. For quantitative data, you'll use mean, median, regression, and visualizations like scatter plots and histograms. Next, define your goal and choose the right method. Your research question guides your method. For comparing two groups, use a t-test. More than two groups, use ANOVA. For relationships, go with regression or correlation. For predictions, confidence intervals and hypothesis testing. If you're analyzing categorical data, go with the chi-square test. Avoid these common mistakes. Don't confuse correlation with causation. Just because two things happen together doesn't mean one causes the other. Look out for outliers, make sure your sample is big enough, and always choose the method that matches your data type. Lastly, use the right tools. For beginners, Excel works well with structured data and basic stats. As you advance, use Python or R for more powerful analysis and visualizations. Platforms like Kaggle and the UCI Machine Learning Repository are great for finding real-world datasets to practice with.